Today we're looking at circles in the coordinate plane. Our objective is we're going to write and graph equations of circles and solve nonlinear systems. We want to remember that a circle is the set of all points in a plane that are equally distant and with a radius of r from the center point of the circle. This radius will be the same whether I go on the left, up, down, right, any of these, or slanted. These are all equal to the same amount. And on this picture, it's going to actually be 10 units away from the center no matter what the direction. So if I were to take a point 8, 6, I go over 8, up 6, I have a point somewhere around here. Now we want to know, is this on the circle? So we know that if it is on the circle, this radius will be a distance of 10. This side length of the triangle is 8. This side length of the triangle is 6. So what I want to say is I want to use Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And my leg lengths are 8 squared plus 6 squared. And if that equals 10 squared, we know it is on the circle. So 64 plus 36 does indeed equal 100. So yes, this point is on the circle. Now, if I do it with this second point, -5, and then the square root of 75 is a little less than 9. So I'm going to have -5 and a little less than 9. And maybe it's on the circle, maybe it's not. But what we're going to do is we're again going to use our a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Our a squared is -5 times -5, which is positive 25. Plus b squared, if I take the square root of 75 and I square it, the square and square root cancel and I get 75. That is going to equal our c squared, which is 100. Remember, all of this distance, it has a radius of 10. So if I have 10 squared plus -5 squared, remember this is a right triangle. We have a -5 squared is 25. The square root of 75 squared is positive 75. And that does equal 100. So yes, this is a point on the circle. Now this next one, we don't have to use Pythagorean theorem because if I go over 0 and down 10, that point is exactly 10 units away from 0. This one is also on the circle. Now our last one is the point 7, -7. If we go over 7, down 7, that's going to be somewhere here. And we want to know, is this a right triangle? Remember, the radius of the circle would be 10, and we have a side length of 7 and a -7. So I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem. My legs are 7 squared is 49, and -7 squared is also 49. This does not equal 100. So no, this would not be a point on the circle. So if you look at this, we always have our a squared, and a is going to be our x value, plus our b squared is our y value. That should equal our radius squared. And that is the equation of a circle with radius of r. Now, not every circle has a center at the origin. Suppose a circle with radius r has a center of hk. So then the radius is the distance hk from any point xy on the circle. Then we can use the distance formula to write the equations for the circles. So I have the square root of x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And this will, if I square both sides, this will be my equation with center h, k. And so this formula is right here. This is any circle where the circle is not centered at the origin. So let's start with center 0, 0 and radius of 5. So I always want to take my x and my y. Since the circle is centered at 0, 0, I'm going to have an x squared plus y squared equals my radius squared, which is 5. So my equation is going to be x squared plus y squared equals my radius squared, 5 squared, which equals 25. So this would be the equation of a circle with centered at 0, 0 with a radius of 5. Now if I move that over, what I want to do is I'm going to take my x and I'm going to minus my 5. So remember, if things are in parentheses, we do the opposite. So we have a minus 5 squared plus y. We have a minus 8. It's going to switch signs to become a positive 8. This is going to equal my radius squared. If my radius is the square root of 2, and I square that radius, the square and square root cancel, and that gives me a 2 at the end. For number 3, I'm going to take and I'm going to start at x, my xy center. I have a negative 3. I'm going to switch the sign to be a positive 3. Now with the y being at 0, remember 0, you don't have to add anything. Y plus 0 is just y. So I'm going to have y squared equals my radius squared. Now my radius is not given. I am given the diameter though. Now if I have a circle, the diameter is all the way across the whole circle. So the whole thing is 4, so the radius would be 2. Radius is the distance between the center and the edge, where diameter is the across the whole circle. So my diameter is 4, my radius is 2, so 2 squared is going to give me a 4. So I'm going to have x plus 3 squared plus y squared equals 4. Now we're given this circle here. We're going to write down our center. Our center here is at 0, 0. Our radius, we're going to count over from the center to the edge of the circle at 6, no matter which, if we go up, down, left, or right. So my radius is 6. So we're going to have x squared plus y squared equals our radius squared. 6 times 6 is 36. So this would be the equation of this circle here. Looking at number 5, we're going to write down our center. Our center is over 2 down 5, 2 negative 5. Now our radius, we're going to count from the center over 1, 2, 3, 4. Now make sure when you count the radius, you either go up, down, left, or right when counting. We don't want to count off diagonally because it won't be exact. So our radius is 4. Now we're going to write the equation of the circle. X, we take our x value for our center and we switch the sign. So instead of a positive 2, it'll be a negative 2 because it's in parentheses. Our minus 5 will be a positive 5 with the y value because it's in parentheses. It's going to flip signs and we're going to have a squared. This is going to equal our radius squared. Our radius is 4. So radius squared is going to be 16. On number 6, we want to find the center of our circle. It is at negative 3, positive 5. We're going to count our radius. Our radius from the center to the edge is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our radius is 5. And you could have gone up, down, left, or right to find that. We're going to start with our x value, x. I have a minus 3 here, so we're going to switch the sign. It's going to be a positive 3 squared, plus we have our y value, which is a positive 5. So in the equation, it's going to be in parentheses, and we're going to have a y minus 5 squared equals our radius squared. 5 squared is 25. Looking at number 7, we have our equation this time. We're going to write down the center. The center is going to be our HK. So we're going to, with the x value, it has a -3. It does the opposite here, so it's going to be a +3. Our +4 is going to switch signs to be a -4. Now our radius squared is equal to 11. This number here is our radius squared. So to find our radius, what we need to do is we need to take the square root of both sides. Now, and so our radius is equaling the square root of 11. Now we don't need a minus here because it's impossible to have a negative radius. Now square root of 11 is a little more than 3. R is about 3 point something. So it's in between 3 and 4. So we're going to start with our center at +3, -4. We put our point, and then we're going to go a little more than 3 in all directions, up, down, left, and right. And then best we can, we're going to connect the dots into a circle. And that would be the graph that would go along with this equation. Now for number 8, we're going to write our center. Now in the x direction, I have a +5. It's in parentheses, so it's going to do the opposite of what you think it's going to do. Now with the y, there's not a plus number, so it's going to automatically be 0. This is our radius squared is 16. So if I take the square root of that, the radius is 4. So I'm going to start at -5, -5, 0, and then I'm going to go 4 in all directions. It goes a little bit off the graph. Just do your best to connect the dots as best you can and connect them into a circle. Now number 9, it doesn't have any plus or minus numbers on either the x or the y, so it's going to start at 0, 0. My radius squared is 25, so my radius is going to be 5. Start at 0, 0, and I'm going to go 5 and up, down, left, and right. I'm going to connect those in a smooth curve, and best you can get a circle out of that. And that would be our equation of that circle. Now, if I started with this circle here, the radius squared is 5, so the radius would be about the square root of 5. Now, the square root of 5 is a little more than 2. So I'm going to take and just have my center is at 0, 0, and I'm going to go a little more than 2 up, down, left, and right. Now this circle, we are going to take it and it's going to be moved. We're going to move it left 6 units and up 7 units. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to take this circle and move it left 6, we're going to start with the center here, move it left 6 and up 7, and this is going to be our new center. But we're going to just shift this circle. Now we're going to write this new equation. The new center is at -6, +7. And so we're going to have x +6 squared. Remember, it does the opposite of what you think it's going to do. And then the +7 is going to become a -7 with the y in the y value direction. Now our radius has not changed. It's still going to be the square root of 5. So if we square that, that would be a +5. And this will be our equation for that circle. Now, if I have on number 11, we're going to the left. We have a -11, so it goes in the positive direction, 11. And up in the, we have a +4 in the y direction, so it's going to be a -4. The radius squared equals 9, so our radius will equal 3. We're going to take this right 3, so we're going in the right direction, more 3, more to the right. It's already 11 to the right. If we move it 3 more to the right, that would be 11 plus 3, which is 14. So it's going to go over here to 14 and then down 5. It's already down 4. If I go another 5 down, down 4 and a negative 5 is a negative 9. Now my radius is 3. I'm going to dilate it by a scale factor of 3, which means it's going to be 3 times as big. So 3 times 3 is 9 is our radius, our new radius. So we're going to write the equation. It's going to have an x plus 14 is just going to change to a minus 14. A minus 9 is going to change to a plus 9. And our radius is 9. Our radius squared is 81. On number 12, we have a negative 4 and a negative 3 for our center. Our radius squared is 16, so our radius is 4. So it's going to be something like this. We're going to take it left 2, down 7. So we're already left 4. We're going to go another 2 to the left. So 4 to the left plus another 2 to the left is going to be a negative 6 for our x value. And then if we go down another 7, we're already down 3. If we go another 7, it's a down 10. So we're going to have a negative 10 here. Now our radius is 4, but we're going to dilate it by a scale factor of 1/2. This means it's going to be half the size. So if I have a 4 and I'm cutting it in half, my new radius is going to be a radius of 2. So we're going to use this center and this radius to write an equation of our circle. If we have a minus 6, it becomes a positive 6. And then we have a negative 10 here. It's going to become a y plus 10 squared equals our radius of 2 squared is going to be our radius squared is 4. And that would be the equation of that circle. Now we're going to look at number 13. We have a circle. We have 0, 0 is going to be the center. The origin is the point 0, 0. We want to know the distance between these 2 points. So we're going to go ahead and write the distance formula. We're going to label these points as x1, y1, x2, y2. We're going to have the square root. X2 is 0 minus x1 is 1 squared plus y2 is 0 minus y1 is square root of 3 squared. This is going to give us the square root. Negative 1 squared is a 1 plus negative square root of 3 squared is a positive 3. The square and square root cancel. And this is going to be the square root of 4, which is 2. So since the distance between the center and 1 square root of 3 is 2, that would be a radius. So yes, this point is on the circle. So we have a center is at 2, 3, and our radius is square root of 29. First, we're going to find the distance between the center and the edge of the circle. And if we get the square root of 29, we'll know that it is on the circle. We have our x1, y1, x2, y2. Our x2 is, we have the square root of 2 minus 4 squared plus y2 is 3 minus a negative 2 is plus 2 squared. 2 minus 4 is a negative 2. Negative 2 squared is a 4 plus 5 squared is 25. This gives us the square root of 29, which is what we're looking for our radius. So yes, this will be on the circle. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to write x1, y1, x2, y2, and we're going to substitute it into our distance formula. x2 is 2 minus 4 squared plus y2 is 1 minus 3 squared. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. Square root of 4 plus 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Square it, and we get another 4, which gives us the square root of 8. Now, square root of 8 is not the square equal to the square root of 7. So this will not be on the circle. We're going to skip down all the way to number 20. We're going to solve this system by graphing. So we have this point. We have the equation. This is a circle. This circle is going to have a center at positive 3, negative 2. Remember, it does the opposite of what you think it's going to do. Our radius squared is 4. So if I take the square root of 4, I get my radius is 2. So we're going to go over 3 down 2. And we're going to go 2 in every direction. And then we're going to finish the circle by connecting the dots into a circle shape. Our second equation is the equation of a line. We're going to have the equation y equals mx plus b. If it's in this form, it's a line. Our b is where we begin. We begin at negative 3. Our slope is a 1 over 1. So we're going to go up 1 over 1 and complete that line. Now, when you have a system of equations, you're looking for where these 2 points intersect. Now, I see 2 points where these are intersecting. One of them is at the point 1, negative 2, and that would be this point here. The other one is we go over 3 and then we're going up and down 0. So the other point is 3, 0. So when you have a system, you're looking for where these two graphs intersect. So these would be the 2 points. So when we're looking for answers for systems, we're looking for points on a graph. So now algebra, sometimes it's hard to tell exactly where things are crossing. So algebra always works a little bit better for solving systems. Okay, let's look at 21. We're going to use substitution to solve this system. Y is always equaling a negative 3 on this line. We're going to take that negative 3 and substitute it into the y of the first equation. So we're going to have x squared plus, instead of the y, we're going to have a negative 3 squared equals 25. So we have x squared, negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. This is going to equal 25. Then we're going to take and we're going to subtract 9 from both sides of the equal sign. X squared is going to equal 16. So now if I take the square root of both sides, x could be positive or negative. So we're going to take this, we're going to put plus or minus whenever we take the square root of both sides. We need to remember that x equals plus or minus square root of 16 is 4. So we have two x values. One is a 4 and one is a negative 4. Now you can take that 4 and plug it into the first equation or the second equation. But I always like to look and see which one is easier to solve for. If I take my 4 and I plug it in this one, y will always equal a negative 3. And the same thing happens when we put a negative 4 into the second equation. The y will equal negative 3. So our two answers where the circle and the line will cross will be at 4, negative 3 and negative 4, negative 3. Now on number 22, we're going to take our negative x minus 4 and substitute it in for the y, because y equals negative x minus 4, and we're going to substitute it into this other equation. We're going to have x squared plus, in our parentheses, we're going to have negative x minus 4 squared. So this negative x minus 4 is replacing this y, but we're going to put it in parentheses so the whole thing is squared, not just one piece, and that's going to equal 16. We're going to have x squared. Now, negative x minus 4 squared is negative x minus 4 times negative x minus 4. We're going to square them by foiling out. Negative x times negative x is a positive x squared. And negative x times a negative 4 is a positive 4x. A negative 4 times a negative x is another positive 4x. And a negative 4 times a negative 4 is a positive 16. We're going to combine our like terms. X squared plus x squared is 2x squared. 4x plus 4x is 8x. Now we have these 16s on both sides of the equal sign. If I minus 16 from both sides, both of them cancel out, so this will equal 0. Now we want to look, we have an x squared and an x, so we want to factor. So I always want to look to see, does it have anything that can be pulled out of both pieces? Both of these could be divided by a 2 and an x evenly. So we're going to pull the 2x out, and it's like we're dividing by a 2 and an x. So one of the 2's cancels and one of the x's cancels, so we're just left with an x here. On the second one, if I divide out a 2x, 8 divided by 2 is a 4, and then the x's cancel, so I have plus 4. Since we have two pieces that equal 0, we're going to use our zero product property. When two things multiply to equal 0, either the first one has to equal 0 or the second one has to equal 0. So we're going to divide by 2 on both sides of the equal sign, x equals 2. We're going to minus 4 from both sides of the equal sign, and x equals a negative 4. We're going to have our points. Our first x is 2. Our second x is a negative 4. Now we can to get the y value, we can plug it into the first equation or the second equation. It doesn't matter which one we plug it into because we're looking for where these are equal. So I'm going to look, and I want to plug it into the second equation because it looks a little easier. The y is going to equal a negative x minus 4. If my x is 2, I'm going to have y equals a negative 2 minus 4, which is a negative 6. So when the x is 2, the y is negative 6. I'm going to do the same thing by plugging this negative 4 into the x here. So I'm going to take that negative 4 and plug it in. Negative 4 minus 4. A negative 4 is a positive 4 minus 4, which gives us 0. So the y is going to equal 0 when the x is equaling 4.